I'm Pastor Randy Wostrom. I'm the lead pastor. I'm so grateful for you to join in and be a part of us this morning as we kick off a new year with new possibilities. In fact, we're going to be talking about habits. It's probably top on a lot of lists of what we want to accomplish today. In fact, if you were talking to some of our mentors that I'm mentoring as pastors, one of the subjects we talked about very recently was this very subject. I'm very passionate about this subject because habits are small disciplines with big results. Watch this. Boom. You know what? This is something that can change the trajectory of your life in a major way. Simple, small little steps that lead up to some big change in who you are. When we talk about this subject, there are three key books that I draw from on this, and I want you to have that information because I'll probably be quoting and pulling stuff from there often. The Power of Habits by Charles Duhigg. Just in an important study in which he did, the book was very powerful, talks about some keystones and other things that are important. Compound Effects by Darren Hardy. And, this year, the book that came out was Atomic Habits by James Clear. And these three books really talk about habits in such a powerful way to help you understand them and get a hold of them. There was an Australian millionaire that I heard one time that was traveling around as a Christian, and he made this statement that has always stuck with me. Successful people do consistently what other people do occasionally. A successful person, whether it's in spiritually, no matter who it is, if you think they're successful, they are consistently doing something. It's the others that are only doing that occasionally that aren't having the success that the other person is. Maybe it's in your finances. You'll find that they're making the same decisions consistently, have the same habits consistently, which makes them successful. It may be physically, the fact that they're working out and they're consistently doing the same things that needed to be done on a regular manner, but that causes them to have the bodies and the physiques that they're looking for, the health that they're looking for, because they're consistently following through on that. Relationally, you'll find the same thing. It's not just a hit and miss. It's not an occasional time that you kind of make things up in your relationship. It's that you're consistently doing something where other people are only doing it occasionally. To be successful, I think we could look at a couple people. Jesus would be one of them. And I think that you'll find that Jesus, in his success, never said, you know what, I'm just too busy to pray. I mean, there's so many crowds, the people are going on. It is so busy, I got people to feed. It is incredible. I'm too busy to pray. That never happened with him. He always took time to be with the Father. In fact, he pulled away from the crowd. He pulled away from the activity. He pulled away even when he was tired, even when things were stressful, even things were going on. He pulled away to spend time with his Father, to be intimate. Paul, another one that we could say was very successful. He had the habit, the scripture says, or the custom of going to the temple to share with non-believers, to share with them about Christ. Our habits will make or break us. We become what we repeatedly do. Sean Covey said that. What is consistently done by us, we become that person. So here's the big idea that I'm going to want you to discover today. It's who before do. Who you are is more important than what you do. And so that's the big thought we're going to be wrestling with today and looking at today that I think will really drive home and help you be successful in your habits. In this series, it couldn't have more of a perfect timing. Many of you are making these resolutions. You're looking at things. You're evaluating how things were last year. You're looking at habits and the way you kind of lived your life. And in that, you're saying, what can I be doing different? Yet, 92% of us, the things that we say that we want to do and accomplish, we will stop doing them by Valentine's Day. That's as far as we get into February, and it's over. It's done. And then that kind of gets us all depressed, and because of that, we decide not to make resolutions. We try not to start habits. We just kind of become, and we let up, and we give up on what is something very important in our life. Paul writes this in Romans 7. He says this in verse 15. I don't really understand myself. I don't know why. I want junk food. I don't know why it is that I'm spending more at Target than I should be doing. Why I don't stop procrastinating. I don't really understand myself. For I want to do what's right, but I don't do it. Instead, I do what I hate. I want to do what is right, but I can't. I want to do what is good, but I don't. I don't want to be what is wrong, but I do it anyways. And then he does what most of us do in a situation like this. We connect this bad behavior, we connect this failing in our life, we connect it to our identity, who we are. And this is what he says in verse 24. Oh, what a miserable person I am. I am such a failure. Who will free me from this life that is dominated by sin and death? And he takes a transition. He makes a mark here that's very important. Thank God the answer is Jesus Christ our Lord. That's the answer. It's not in me. It's not in what I'm doing, but it's in Jesus. The answer to what matters, our source, our hope, can be found in Jesus, in the who that we decide to become. So why do we generally fail? Why are we like Paul? Why are we wrestling? Why are we having these problems? Well, there's three reasons we don't succeed. One, we focus on what, but don't understand the how. We're trying to focus on what's going to happen, what's going to occur, versus the who. How do we get there? How do we accomplish that? Most of us have similar goals in life. You'll find out that if you're sitting here or you're sitting there where you're at in your house, you'll have similar goals with other people. There's other people near you as your neighbors, and you talk about it. But you have vastly different results. A lot of us talk about health. A lot of us have the goal of health. We don't wake up and say, I hope this year I have a crisis in my cholesterol. I hope I have the worst cholesterol ever. We don't have that. We generally have the same goals of what we want to have. Financially, we don't wake up and say, you know what, I hope I double my debt. I hope that this year I pay double digits on my interest rate because that would really make me successful. You know, all of us have similar goals about enjoying God, about our relationships. There are things that we want to see accomplished, but we have vastly different results in what we're doing. James Clear says, whether it's winners, losers, successful people, unsuccessful people, they have the same goals, but they have a different result. They have a different end. They don't get to the same places. They're different. I mean, you look at sports teams. When a sports team starts off, it doesn't start off with the goal of, they all say, we want to win the championship. We want to be the winners this year. No one starts off and says, you know what? I hope to be in fifth place. That's our goal this year, guys. Fifth place. I know there's only 6 teams, but fifth place. We're going for fifth this year. And if you're married, You know, you start out, you're in love, you know. You don't look at it and say, you know what? Our goal is we can get 5 years under our belt. 7 tops. You know, then we can have divorce. But, you know, a good marriage is if we can make it 5 or 7 years. We have the same goals, but we end up in different spots. Why is that? What is happening? Goals don't determine success. That's the point. Goals don't get us across the goal line. Systems, you need to hear that. Systems determine success. You don't rise to the level of your goals, to the goals you just set. You don't rise to that. You fall to the levels of your systems. James Clear says that in his book, Atomic. The Bible proves this out consistently. You'll see godly people that have developed systems that are God-honoring, that are to honor God, that have caused them to rise above, not a goal. Look at the faith of Daniel. Now, there's somebody whose faith that you'd want to have in your life. I mean, you know, he was able to stand in front of the lion's den, and the lions were quieted. You know, the power, the faith that he had was amazing. And yet he had a system. His system was that when he woke up every morning, 3 times a day, he would pray. It didn't matter whether it was a business meeting, what was going on. And when it came to that time, he would pray. 3 times a day, his system, his habit, what he thought was God-honoring was, I'm going to take time to talk to God, to seek God, to see what he has. We think we need to change the results. I need to lose 20 pounds. That's the problem. If I could lose 20 pounds. If I were more organized and I did things more consistently, you know, that would be the change for me. If I could pay off that one credit card. I've had that credit card since college. If I could just get that thing paid off. The point is, you need to change the systems that are causing the results that you're having. Fix what we do, then the outcome will become different. Do you hear that? Fix what you're doing consistently, and then the outcome will be different. It will fix itself. I hope this series is starting to excite you and waking up some new thoughts in you. Next week, we're going to get really practical as we go through this series for the next 3 or 4 weeks. But I want you to stop fixing the what and focus on the how. How we're going to go about it. What we're going to do. What's the most important thing? It's not the what. Number 2, we don't see progress fast enough. We don't see progress fast enough. You're walking on a treadmill, you're doing it 3 times a week, you're working hard, you get to the end of the week, you do your way out, and you find, I gained 2 pounds. I gained 2 pounds after all that work and all that energy. You know, that doesn't really pay off. They didn't really help out. Or maybe you're reading your Bible and you're reading it along, or you're reading a Bible app and you're trying to stay consistent with that, and you do that all week long, and when it comes to Sunday, you find yourself yelling and screaming at your kids, you're yelling and screaming at your wife, you're mad, you're upset. It says, you know, I read this Bible all week long, I was consistent in it, it didn't change me, it didn't have a big enough impact. Or you say, you know what, I'm going to lay off coffee. I'm going to lighten up on the Starbucks. I'm going to cut back on it. And you end up saving yourself like $100 that month because you really cut back and you change some things like that. But when you look at the scheme of things, the bill that I had for school, it was $37,500. Now it's $37,400. It's not fast enough. And we wrongly conclude that small, good decisions don't matter that much. I can make a good decision, I can work at it, but you know, it doesn't really have the payoff. It doesn't really have the results. That small, good, God-honoring decision I made, it's not making the difference. Or it could be the opposite. You can conclude that small, bad decisions don't matter that much. You play video games for 3 hours and your wife is mad at you, but your wife hasn't left you. So you think, well, it's not that big a deal. Well, it didn't have that big an impact on it. You skip church for a week and you continue on, and it's like, I didn't really miss church that much. I did fine. I'm doing well. I'm still connected. It doesn't really affect me that much. I ate half the box of chocolates, and, I didn't see that instant weight gain, so, it's not as bad as I really thought it would be. We're going to dig deeper, because what we're going to find is that there are things that God is speaking to us about that we're just flat ignoring and putting off because we don't think it's that big a deal. It's going to have that big of impact. It's that important. It doesn't really matter. And God just seems to want to annoy me with that one thing. And there's so many other things that it could be about, but it's that one thing that God is talking to us about. He wants to make it. And we wrongly conclude that a small, bad decision doesn't matter that much. Our life is the sum total of all the small decisions we make. Who we are like that, it's the sum total of all the decisions and why we make those decisions. Small, bad decisions rarely just wreck our life instantly. It's the progression. It's how they add up. It's how it builds into, procrastination, into a lie, into a deception, into a place that it's got a control of us. It's directing us. They add up. Little bad decisions, one at a time, make our heart grow cold. And not just towards our relationships, but towards God. That one annoying thing that He keeps talking to us about, that we keep putting off. We keep thinking it's not that big a deal in the scheme of things. And then you have the flip side. You can have good decisions. Everyone seems to miss what happens to a good decision. When you see something good in somebody's life, they never see the hard work that you've done, the disciplines, the sacrifices, the faithfulness that you put into this. They don't see what it took for you. They want it. They want what you have, but they don't see what it took. They don't see that you stored up all those good decisions, all that faith. You stored it all up, and it had an impact on you. It did something in you. It's kind of like when I heat up my coffee in the morning or I heat up my tea, and as I'm doing that, it starts off, it's like 80 degrees, 140 degrees, 205 degrees. That's at 211 degrees. And then somewhere around 212, it starts to boil. It's stored up. You don't see that heat, but it stores up and it generates until it gets the results that you're looking for. It's not overnight. No one's an overnight success. It's stored up decisions that you've made, that consistency, that you consistently do. Others are only doing occasionally. They want the good things they see in our life. We want the good things we see in somebody else's life. But what we don't see is all that it took. The overcoming of self-doubt. I don't know if I can do this. The failures of times, the starting again, the prayers that you put into it, the sacrifices that you put into it. The enduring criticism, the early mornings, the late nights of working and just trying to perfect it and keep after it, the grind, the persistence, the private price that you pay, the small, consistent disciplines that you're building on, that you're adding on, that you're storing on in your life. It's the things that no one sees whatsoever that brings results everybody wants. They're not seeing these things, but they're what bring the results, the big results everyone wants. Galatians 6:9 says this, "Let us not become weary in doing good." Let's not stop our prayer. Let's not stop our time in reading of the Word. Let's not stop our time in fasting, honoring our spouse. those things that are important. Let us not get weary in that, for at the proper time, we will reap a harvest if we do not give up. If we don't quit. If we're consistent, if we stay after it, then it's going to pay off. We need to understand, how do we get there? By not giving up. Not giving up in the small disciplines that bring the big results. Don't give up when you think it's not going fast enough, it's not paying off, it's not having a dividend. I need a higher return. You don't give up. And number 3, we need to realize our distorted identity sabotages our success. Our messed up identity and how we see ourselves and how we view ourselves, how we talk to ourselves, sabotages our success. The enemy's going to tell you you're no good. It's going to connect the problem, the failure, with who you are. It wants to connect that to you. That's what the enemy does. You don't do anything right. You're no good. You can't possibly succeed. You're a miserable person. You did that wrong thing. You're just a bad individual. And this happens to the best of us. I don't care who you are. This happens to us. Look at Moses. I'm not a good speaker, God. I know you chose me, but I'm just not good at speaking. You really need to choose somebody else. I failed so bad. I remember what I've done wrong. Gideon. An angel calls him a mighty warrior. I'm no warrior, That's why I'm hiding out in this cave. And, you got the wrong person. Get out of my cave. Go find somebody else, because the warrior is not here. Paul, I'm the least of all of you. I am unworthy. He writes most of the Bible. He has such great impact, and yet he says, I am the least because I cause such harm to so many people. The result is that bad ID, that bad identity. You can't see any value. And Christ died for us. You know what? I just have an addictive personality. So if I have an addictive personality, what should I do? I should drink. I should use. I should scratch that itch. I've got an addictive personality, so that's just what I do. I stink at handling money. I just no good at it. So what am I going to do? I'm going to go shopping. I'm just not organized. I'm just not a disciplined person. I'm just not good with people. And you take that as our identity, and we live that out. Unhealthy identity creates unwise habits. And unwise habits reinforce an unhealthy identity. And we have the cycle. We have the unhealthy identity creating habits, and then we have the habits reinforcing that, creating a more unhealthy identity. We live in that vicious circle, and God is trying to get us out of it. I want to encourage you to take a different approach this year. That's why we have growth groups, because in that growth groups, you have other people working with you, getting you know, encouraging you, where you can share with, you can encourage them, you can be a part of that. But what's very important is that most people create do goals, things that we need to do, things that we need to accomplish, all right, that. And I want you to go beyond just reading more, getting some more sleep, spending less time binging at Netflix. I want you, and I want to encourage you to start with who goals. Who am I going to become? Who do I want to be? In fact, I really want you to press into that question. Who do you want to become this year? A true man, a true woman of God? Well, there's a great goal. There's a great desire of what to be and who to be sober, to be clean, to be a person that's set free this year. That's a lofty goal. A godly wife or mom, financially free. It may take several years for that to occur, but to be financially free. A bold witness for Christ. A healthy person. Respecting the temple of God and living longer so I can do all the other things that we talked about. Who do you want to be this year? Identity shapes action. And when you know who you want to be, then you will take that action. I was at a police academy, and while we were there, different classes would come in, and we were about halfway through our session living there, and we were going to be there for 4 months. We've been there about 2 months, and a new class came in. And almost on the first night, something weird happened. Two of the guys really got upset at each other, and they started getting into a fist fight. And immediately, all the guys in my class, we start organized around yelling, fight, 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 And there we have someone that's collecting money and collecting who's going to win, and the fight's going on, it's like that. And then all of a sudden, it's just like a minute into it, it's like, it just kind of dawned on us, and we stopped and we kind of looked at each other, and we realized, I think we're adults. I don't think this is a mature action to do. Aren't we police officers? Shouldn't we be stopping a fight? And so then we all realized who we were, and we stepped in and we stopped the fight. See, when you realize who you are, when you understand that you know what to do, you start with the who. Who do you want to be? What's important in your life? It's kind of like if you're a cigarette smoker or you're vaping, and you're trying to wrestle with getting through that, and you're trying to get over that, and you might say, someone says, "Hey, do you want to vape, or you want to do that?" You go, "No, I'm trying to quit." Where your ID, your identity is that of a smoker. I'm a smoker that I'm trying to stop. And that's going to keep you from doing it because of who you're identifying with. But if you are a smoker and you say, "You know what? I'm not smoking anymore. I don't do that anymore." You've changed your identity. You said, "That was the past. This is who I'm going to be now." Just who am I? I realize I'm a sinner, but I'm not trapped in what I'm doing. I want you to listen to Romans 6. Romans 6 says this in verse 6. "We know that our old sinful selves were crucified with Christ, so that sin might lose its power in our life. We are no longer slaves to sin. For when we died with Christ, we were set free from the power of sin." We died to it. You can't tempt a dead person. We died to it. And the power of that sin is now freed. Verse 18, "Now you are free from your slavery to sin, and you have become slaves to righteous living." God-honoring habits. Things that get us to the place that we desire to be and who we are. A healthy identity creates positive habits. And positive habits reinforce a healthy identity. And the cycle is now new. And a cycle is refreshing and renewing to us. Positive habits like tithing and reading the Bible and fasting and praying, attending church and showing up and being part of a group. Those healthy habits reinforce a healthy ID, who we want to be. they reinforce that. And because we're doing those things, that gets reinforced. Who do you want to become? That's the question I want you to really wrestle with right now. Who do you want to become? I know for me, in looking at that question, I began to think of some things. For me, I've got a good 10 plus years to still be pastor and do a good job. So I want to be a guy that loves Jesus. I just want to love him. I just want to be known for that. I want to be obsessed with my bride and how beautiful she is and how special is and how important she is and how talented she is. I just want to be obsessed with who she is and her being a part of my life. I want to be a great dad. That has always been one of my challenges in life, is to be a great dad and a better papa. I want to be a devoted pastor to this church, to you as your pastor. I want to be a stronger leader who believes in people and is helping mentor them and release them to the God-given ministry God has called them to, the destiny of who they are to be in Christ, that they'll make a difference in this world. I want to be wise in stewarding my time and taking care of whatever's been entrusted with me, whether it's people, whether it's people trying to be pastors, whether it's a church, whether it's a resource, whatever's been entrusted to me. My kids, my family, I want to be wise in how I steward that, how I use it for God's glory and bring God's glory. I really want to leave a legacy. And that means something to me. That word means something from generation to generation, down to 1,000 generations. So because I did positive acts, they're being released. They're being released. They're being released throughout the generations. No single action changes your identity. You can't just do something once and, I'm changed. But I don't have to be perfect. I can fail and I can mess up, and that's not going to shape my identity either. But multiplied actions over time change how you see yourself, what you hear yourself saying, and eventually it changes your identity. You know, Darren Hardy said it this way: small, smart choices. Add that to consistency and add that to time, and you'll equal a radical difference. I have challenged you every year to pick one thing to focus on, one thing to really come to bear on, so that some change can happen in your life. Maybe it's the fruit of the Spirit. Maybe it's something from the Bible. Maybe it's one word, just to focus on that. I've told you how I worked for 2 years on kindness and having this fruit of the Spirit of kindness. I mean, so many of you were helpful to point out when I wasn't kind. I know my wife was there to help me with that so many times. I believe that Terry, if we were to ask her what she would pick, she would blow all our minds, because she's just that way. She's just so attuned that she would pick something. The one thing that she would pick would be, my word is Jesus. I just want to be like Jesus. Now, I would say that's not fair. I would say, how can you do that? You can't just pick Jesus. You know, everyone, But she would mean it with such depth and such sincerity and such genuineness. I want to reflect Jesus. I want to know Jesus. I want to experience Jesus. I want Jesus to know and experience me, Jesus. And she would sum up everything so strongly and so well with that one word, Jesus. I want to be more like Jesus. I would want to do what he would want me to do. I would like to reflect his love, his truth, his boldness. He's exactly who. It's kind of this old terminology that you don't hear much. It's lordship. I want you to be Lord of my life. You speak and I will do it. I will respond. I am yours. When you know who you are, you know what to do. What person do you want to be like? Who do you want to be like? When you define that, you'll know what to do. God-honoring people do consistently what the person they want to be like would do. I want to be like Jesus. Would you take a moment and just pray with me? God, I ask that you will just stir up our hearts and our gifts today. I ask that we will see you and see you smile and see your love and see your passion for us as never before. And that you just lift up our heads and lift up our faces and chase away the doubt and concern. That you would make us different. That you would become the who we desire to be. And while you're there right now, you may be listening to this, but you may be spiritually frustrated a little bit, not knowing exactly where you stand before God, knowing that every knee will bow and every tongue will confess, you are Jesus. You are the Son of God. Would you just pray with me? Create a solid base for you to live on. Just say this with me right now. I believe you're the Son of God. And I admit that there's sin in my life and there's things that I do that have harmed and come against you and hurt you. Will you forgive me? I accept right now your identity. I accept who you are. I accept your forgiveness. And I surrender to you in lordship. You are Lord. You tell me what to do. I don't tell you what to do. I seek you and I look to you to see what you want me. I look to how to bring a smile on your face each day. And Lord, I'm expressing this with my words right now. That you might cover me with your love. Cover me with your power. Cover me with your identity. Jesus Christ. If you prayed that prayer today, will you just text BASE to 84576? Just text it, and we've got a Bible, that coupon we want to send to you, and we have a study we just want to send you so you know where to start, so you can continue this journey and really connect and be powerful. But above all right now, as we go to worship, will you just let God cover you, wash over you, fill you?